Live. How we doing, everybody? It's your guy Wardy here, and in case you're wondering, Wardy, why is the voice so raspy? Why can't you talk at full strength? And that is because twice over the past 72 hours, I've been attending Mets games, and I was screaming my absolute head off in very exciting fashion. The Mets kickstart this bad boy, this little homestand, in an amazing way, this time by defeating the Chicago Cubs in 2 games out of 3 in this 3-game set by a final score of 6-2. And I'm going to share all my initial reactions here late night here on this Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to everyone that was in attendance at today's game, everyone that watched the games at home, and everyone that's tuning in right now live on a replay. We're happy to have you in here, everybody, as I not only had a blast there at Citi Field there attending today's game, but I also took my son Shay to his first official game, and the Mets won in a fantastic fashion. So I'm not saying he's a good luck charm, but you're welcome all at the same time. We have so much to get into in tonight's late night edition of our post-game show, as we're going to get into all the key takeaways, innings 1 through 9 this matchup, along with what is standing out with guys like Mark Vientos, Brett Baty, Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, Brandon Nimmo. Everybody and their mother feels like that they are contributing, with the exception of Juan Soto, who hasn't done anything this series since night 1 of the matchup. A lot to get into, folks. I'm really excited to break down with each and every one of you. Shout out to our amazing sponsors here at BetUS and SeatGeek as always. But let me see those W spam the live show right here, right now. That is what I want to see first and foremost, everybody. Get those W spam. Let's get it going here in the chat. I want to see the excitement. I want to see the hype going. And let's break down this ball game, baby. Happy to have you all in here as always. We see Yoshima already with a $5 holla. Thank you so much for that, Yoshima. I appreciate that. And Patrick is saying, dog, where's your voice? This is what happens when you're at Citi Field screaming your head off 2 out of the past 3 days. That's the reality of it. It's going to happen. You know, we got it, everybody. John, I know. Funny enough, I was actually trying to make the live show happen today from Kiner's Corner, which is connected right outside of Citi Field, but they had post-game today, they had a bunch of kids that got a chance to run on the field and the bases, and they had lines wrapped all around Citi Field because of that, which meant that they would not have Kiner's Corner open post-game, because I was initially trying to do something in the Heineken Club, but people were storming out fast, and then I saw there in Kiner's Corner that they were closed, unfortunately, too. Otherwise, it would have been live hours ago breaking down this victory for you guys like I typically do right after the ball game. And Jose, I do think he's going to be okay, but yes, when I saw Luis Torrens go down in this ball game, I had the same reaction that all you guys more than likely did, thinking, oh my goodness gracious, what just happened? Because I didn't see from my vantage point there, I was sitting third base side at tonight's game, witnessing Torrens fall down, and he's not moving for an extended period of time, and I'm saying to myself, what just happened to Torrens? Then I see on the replay through SNY's clip that he gets caught right in the you-know-where. Not ideal whatsoever for foul ball. He's going to be okay, but man, did that not feel so good. But guys, you know the drill by now. If you don't now, you know. We let Jingle run after every big, amazing victory this season, and now that the Mets kickstarted their homestand here with a 6-2 series finale victory here in Game 3, this time a Sunday edition, we got to let it rip as we always do with the one, the only, the official WardyNYM post-game jingle, baby. Let's go. Ha ha. Shout out to my guys Greg and Jordan, as always, with the official WardyNYM post-game jingle. I see Zelda, I see Scott, I see Juliet, I see Ryan, I see a lot of you amazing members first chiming in live on a replay. Happy to have you all in here, everybody, and let's get into breaking down this matchup. Wardy's K-Corner t-shirt sounds like a great idea, John. I don't hate that. I really don't. And what I also don't hate is seeing the Mets break out the bats big time in the 8th inning, getting some batting practice done here against the bullpen of the Chicago Cubs. That had me absolutely hyped up in this matchup after Matthew Boyd was absolutely stellar against this Mets team initially that we saw in said matchup, going 6+ strong innings, Griffin Canning towing the rubber, the veteran right-hander. What has Griffin Canning done, folks? Griffin Canning has helped lead the way for a Mets rotation that is still far and away the best in the National League in Team ERA. It is absurd just how good consistently Clay Holmes, what we see there now in Griffin Canning, what we see in pretty much every piece of this entire rotation, with the exception of Tyler McGill as of late, everyone and then some has been beyond productive. The Mets only have one starter right now, or two starters now, and their rotation that have a 3+ ERA. One is David Pearson, the other is Tyler McGill, and they're just over 3 if I'm not mistaken too. So love to see that for the pitching. Love to see Griffin Canning go 6 strong innings on his birthday, mind you. So I'm really excited to break down this ball game and get into this series recap. Like I said, we have a lot to get into, and I don't want to waste any time. Hyper, a great member as always. Thank you so much for becoming a Mets member, my man. We're really happy to have you in here as always. Thank you kindly for joining. And again, guys, hit that like and subscribe button as you first chime in here for a late night edition of our New York Metropolitan post-game show. And once more, I apologize if the voice is a little raspier than usual. Sadly, that is the reality sometimes that we have to deal with when screaming my head off at Citi Field, justifiably so, after having myself an absolute blast like each and every one of you tend to do the same when you're in attendance. All right, guys, let's get into it and let's break down this ball game, because I got to give you guys a little bit of a breakdown, the context leading into today's game. Got there early today, was one of the first 15,000 to get one of those little Mets purses that my girl was very happy to receive. I didn't need one, obviously, so I was fine to just stroll in there. And then the ball game, weather-wise, was absolutely perfect. The vibes were immaculate. You had, again, 35 to 40,000 strong easily there for an early Sunday day game there at Citi Field. And we do need to keep the Ranger goals on. I tend to agree, Caleb. That was electric there on Friday from the hockey jersey night there for the Clay Holmes jersey night, that is. And speaking of jerseys, everybody, I'm glad that you said that, because that reminded me, folks, thank you guys so much. We have officially hit 33,000 subscribers here on the platform. And like I promised you guys, after every single new 1,000 subscriber platform we hit here on the platform, a new subscriber plateau we hit on the platform, I should say, we're giving away a Mets jersey of whatever player you guys currently want on the Mets. So what we're going to do a week from this point on, so next week, right around either Sunday or Monday, we are going to be doing our live show, but I'll let you guys know in advance on the community tab that live show that same day or night, we're going to be giving away a Mets jersey. Can be a Juan Soto jersey, a Francisco Lindor jersey, whatever kind of jersey that you're looking for, I will have you guys covered. We've already given away 2 Juan Soto jerseys and 1 Juan Soto shirt jersey this season. So if you guys want to get in on that, all you need to be is subscribe to the platform and chime into one of our live streams approximately exactly a week or so from now that I'll have for you guys either Sunday night or Monday there of the following week. So be on the lookout for that. And again, thank you guys so much for 33K. You're absolutely amazing. Jermaine, thank you so much for the $5 donation. We're happy to have you in here. Really appreciate that. Now, guys, let's get into breaking down this ball game. And I know I lost my voice. You don't need to tell me twice. I'm doing my best to chug through it here for each and every one of you. Am I concerned about Paul Skeens tomorrow? Just as much as the next guy, obviously. And I will have plenty to say on Paul Skeens for you guys. I will have in a video dropping in the AM, so be on the lookout for that. And Zelda, not a problem. You have a great one, my guy. And it was an absolute blast interacting with so many amazing Mets fans at the ball game today as well. And without further ado, let's get into breaking down how this ball game transpired, because as it begun there in the first inning, we had a Mets lineup that was Francisco Lindor in leadoff, Juan Soto at the 2-hole, Pete Alonso batting third, Vientos fourth, back in the lineup there for Vientos, batting fourth there, moving up a bit in the lineup. Batting fifth, we would see Brett Nimmo. Beatty came off the bench in this one when, mind you, Beatty hit home runs in back-to-back days and has 3 home runs in his past 2 games played. Tremendous stuff by Brett Beatty. A good problem to have if you're the Mets now. Starling Marte had himself a solid day that we'll get into shortly. He was batting right behind Nimmo at DH. Terens there that we saw batting 7th at catcher. 8th Luisangel Acuna at second base, and ninth, Tyrone Taylor. In this ballgame, folks, Pete Crow Armstrong leads things off for the Chicago Cubs, and he strikes out swinging. Then we see Kyle Tucker striking out and swinging. Then you mean to tell me that Seiya Suzuki strikes out swinging? Yes, you heard that correctly, folks. We saw it together. A 1-2-3 K in the side to begin this ballgame is Griffin Canning and this New York Metropolitan team. In the bottom of the first, unfortunately, the Mets bats were just as cold and quiet as the Cubs begin this one. Lindor strikes out, Soto strikes out, and Alonso strikes out. The veteran southpaw and Matthew Boyd has himself an easy 1-2-3 as well as we head to the second. In the second, we would see nothing transpire for the Cubs as they go down in order from Michael Busch to Carson Kelly to Nico Horner. A nice 1-2-3 inning of work there in the second for Griffin Canning, recording a strikeout there on Carson Kelly specifically. In the bottom of the second, we saw Mark Vientos and Brandon Nimmo get out there from a pop-out and a strikeout. Then Starling Marte gets on with a hit by pitch because of course he does. In case you guys don't know, Starling Marte has been hit by a pitch more than anyone else in the National League, if I'm not mistaken, or close to. He has gone absolutely drilled so many times already this season. Luis Torrens ripped his first triple of the season, an RBI triple, driving in Mr. Starling Marte, and that gave the Mets an early 1-0 lead. Torrens makes the gorgeous dive there and stays on base at third base. He is safe, and the Mets go on to be up by one, and Luisangel Acuna lines out, but not before the Mets get themselves an early 1-0 lead as we then head to the third. In the third, everybody, we would see Dansby Swanson rip himself a single. Justin Turner then would a walk, and I'm sorry. I know Justin Turner isn't the worst player imaginable, and I also understand that in the case of Justin Turner, that he's a guy that you have to respect even with him being at the age of 40, but I hate the fact that Justin Turner has had walks in back-to-back days when Buddy's barely been able to get a lick on base so far this season. Why are we doing this? I just don't understand it. It's frustrating, but I digress. Sean, great member. Happy to have you in here. Scott Sandler, great member. Dave Kaplitz, my friend, great member. As always, happy to have you guys in here. Hit that like and subscribe on as you guys chime in, folks, as we're breaking down the latest in Mets land. The latest big victory here, big series victory, this time by a final score of 6-2 against the Chicago Cubbies. After that Justin Turner walk that we would see, John Birdie flies out, and PCA then what a strikeout there, and that will keep it a 1-0 ball game in the Metropolitans' favor. And we would see Kyle Tucker ground out, and that be that. So in the bottom of the third, Tyrone Taylor would pop out. Francisco Lindor then gets on base for the first time today with a single that we would see him rip to the left side of Seiya Suzuki. And sadly, right after that single, it comes to an end as Juan Soto grounds into an inning-ending double play. Soto, who of course looked fantastic in game one of this series, was pretty much non-existent since then, which I don't love to see, especially as a guy who I felt like was really starting to get red hot and heat up, and now who knows if that's going to happen. Jason, I have a lot to say on that player front. Don't you worry, and I have a big segment that's dropping on that early for you guys tomorrow. Be on the lookout for it. The only reason why I'm not doing it tonight is because tonight is the series recap and breakdown night. Tomorrow is going to be more of the miscellaneous topics, and then we will have coverage tomorrow regarding the Mets series against the Pirates. And be on the lookout, everybody, because we will be live tomorrow in the playback gap for the Paul Skeens start between the Mets and the Pirates. And I'll be live on YouTube as well, but only for the first 4 innings. And then I'll be live exclusively in the playback gap until we then get to our post-game show after tomorrow's matchup. So be on the lookout again, folks. Our latest watch party is tomorrow, beginning right around 6:40 p.m. Eastern, so live on YouTube and the playback gap. Check out playback.tv/WardyNYM, link down below. All you need is an MLB TV subscription, and you guys are able to watch the Mets game live in real time with your guy Wardy, so we can sync together and watch the broadcast together. It's absolutely electric, so I hope to see you guys there. We're going to have a lot of fun with it, like we have done plenty already this season. The only major difference now that we see is that I'm not going to be live the entire time on YouTube because I'm trying to further incentivize you guys to head over to playback for the in-game coverage, because the post-game coverage will be exclusively on YouTube like what we're doing right now and typically do. And we also, guys, one final update, we'll be beginning for the Pirates series, because I'm not sure if I'll be able to get it done tonight in time. We will be having audio back up there on all platforms: Spotify, You name it, anywhere that you guys seek your Mets podcast, we're going to be having daily coverage out on all audio platforms beginning this Pirates series. So if you guys would like to listen to Wardy on the morning commute, maybe a bit more than you're watching the live show or watching the pre-recorded content, no worries whatsoever. We're going to have ourselves available on audio for you guys again, beginning this Pittsburgh Pirates series for you guys to check out. Juliet, thank you again for gifting Trenton in the chat a membership. That's absolutely fantastic, and I really appreciate that. So come one, come all. Happy to have you all in here. And as we continue to break down this ball game, everybody, we would see a nice 1-2-3 inning of work there for Mr. Griffin Canning, who gets a ground out on Seiya Suzuki. Great play, by the way, that we saw there from Canning himself to make the play. Then he got the toss to Alonso. Michael Busch with a ground out on Carson Kelly with a line out, and that does it there for the top of the fourth. In the bottom of the fourth, everybody, we would see the Poi Bears strike out. Mark Vientos then grounds out. Brandon Nimmo gets on with a 2-out single, which I appreciate to see. Their opposite field hitting for Brandon makes me happy and puts a smile on my face. Starling Marte decided to rip a single to left as well, setting the stage for Luis Torrens yet again having an opportunity to produce with runners on. Torrens, who got the Mets early 1-0 lead in this ball game. Now we see a little bit further, everybody, that yes, unfortunately, Torrens flies out to lead the runners stranded there at first and second, but not before the Mets will have themselves a 1-0 lead, so at least that is somewhat of a plus at the time. How does someone gift a membership? Never heard of that. Yeah, John, it's a fairly newer feature that we've seen in YouTube the past 2 years or so. And if you go in if you click on someone else in the chat, or if you go to donate and look at like your membership options, there should be a tab that says you can gift a membership to said person or gift to a number of people should you have interest to do so. It's a really cool way to further build a platform for the community here in WardyNYM, and it's another way for you guys to be supporting in your various ways of generosity, which I greatly appreciate. Never ask, but always appreciate. So thank you guys again for that. Let's see this, everybody. Going up the listeners for a second. Beatty taking Skeens Depot. If that happens, Josh, we're going to absolutely lose our minds tomorrow in our watch party. I can tell you that much. We are going to lose our effing minds, and that becomes a reality. As a Braves fan, I hope the Mets go all the way this year. The reason they invested in winning, I appreciate that, Matt. And as a kind Braves fan, I wish you nothing but the best this season. I don't wish the Braves well, but I appreciate you, and I appreciate that kind word. Yoshima, thank you so much for gifting a membership as well in the chat. We really appreciate that. Look at Yoshima now gifting Ethan, and Ethan's been a longtime follower and supporter, so I'm sure he appreciates that membership greatly. So thank you, Yoshima, for doing exactly that. But unfortunately, the Mets didn't get any more offense as we then headed to the top of the fifth. And in the top of the fifth, we would see Nico Horner ground out, Dansby Swanson ground out, Justin Turner ground out. So a nice 1-2-3 ground out inning of work there for Mr. Griffin Canning. In the bottom of the fifth, Luis Acuna gets the party started by ripping a base hit there to left that I saw there from the third base side in person. Love to see it. Tyrone Taylor then with a pop out. And then unfortunately, at that point, everybody, we saw there there was a bit of a delay, and that was because Luis Angel Acuna sadly got picked off at first base. Now, listen, I know that Acuna has been aggressive, and I know that some of you guys haven't loved Acuna being ultra aggressive, but I think this has a lot more to do with Matthew Boyd just having a disgustingly good pickoff move with that sidearm attempt where he's like basically snake eyesing it there right off the rubber. That's a really difficult thing to do, and not many guys seem to be doing it better in the game right now than Matthew Boyd. So, is what it is. Wasn't happy to see that, but Acuna gets picked off of what was a great move by Matthew Boyd, and we know a thing or two about great pickoff moves from a lefty if David Pearson has something to say about anything. So it is what it is, tip of the cap, and that be that. Ken, thank you so much for becoming a member on the platform. I appreciate that. If you guys don't know how memberships work, you get exclusive shout-outs, perks, including emojis of players that you guys can utilize throughout the live shows and the comments on replay. And we do weekly live shows for our Q&A segment, and we actually will be doing our next weekly live show. I want to say we're going to probably do it just about a week or so from now, because we didn't get a chance to do one in April, so we for certain are doing at least one in May, and may have potential of doing two, or at least I'll do some different form of content for you guys to consume before the month's end. But we're definitely doing a live Q&A for our members only, so make sure to check it out. I will give you guys further details within the next week or so. Kid Jersey, thank you so much for the kind words. I appreciate that. Living in South Jersey now, so I'm surrounded by scumbag Philly fans. I know what that's like as someone that resides in PA, not far from Philly. Let's stay wishing the Phils to lose. If not, though, we'll end their season again. Absolutely, baby. Love to hear that. Big Rick, you're the best, baby. Happy to have you in here. Gregory, how we doing? Alva, how we doing? G Money, Caleb, all you guys, come one, come all. I appreciate it greatly. And as we continue to break down this ball game, folks, this 6-2 victory, after we'd see the Mets there do nothing because Lindor would strike out Sweeney not long after Acuna's caught at first base. We get to the top of the sixth, and this is where, unfortunately, we would see Mr. Griffin Canning's day come to an end, close to at least, because after John Birdie flies out, because we all despise John Birdie, remember his time with the Miami Marlins, being the biggest schmuck imaginable, always getting on base, just being an on-base god, and there's nothing he could do about it. Well, John Birdie, thankfully, was really much a non-factor in this series. Then Pete Armstrong, the former top pick for the Mets in the 2020 draft, rips his 10th home run of the season that he rips to right. Saw it with my very eyes, pained me. He was feeling a little cocky about it. Riding second and especially third there, kind of making a notion to the fans. 10th home run of the year, that tied the ball game 1-1. Then we saw right after, unfortunately, Alvarez came in the ball game because Terens had a foul tip that hit him right on the you-know-what down there. And regardless on if you have a cup or not, when you're getting a foul tip ball that's likely coming anywhere from 90 to 100 plus miles per hour, it's going to hurt like hell. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's why he was clearly in agony. And I initially thought Terens passed out because I didn't know where the foul tip happened initially when I was in attendance. I just saw him pretty much face first in the dirt, not moving much. And I'm like, what just happened to Luis Terens? So thankfully, he eventually got up under his own power, but it did take him an extended period of time to get there. So Terens hopefully is okay. Just feeling a little sore down there, but hopefully a little ice and just some rest will get the job done there sooner rather than later, and then he'll have himself ready to go for the Mets when called upon again as soon as this Pirates series. But we would see Kyle Tucker ground out and Seiya Suzuki ground out, everybody. So that would then do it for Mr. Griffin Canning's final line. And how did Griffin Canning fare today, you might wonder? Well, let me fill you in. Griffin Canning's final line, folks, was stellar. 6 innings of 2 hit, 1 walk, 1 earned run, 5 strikeout ball. And guys, I don't know about you, but I'm kind of feeling good. Does it sound like the voice is starting to wake up more? I think it really was more so because of the fact that I had a bit of a hike heading back home there from the game today, and I was spending on Mother's Day not only with my family, but also with my girl's family as well. They reside out of state, so we were hanging out with them for a bit. Long day, and I was just resting in the car ride on the way back, so I'm assuming that might have went in here when maybe I had that further raspiness, because I know my voice is not 100% right now, but I also know that it's not as bad as what it was when the show started. So I think I just kind of need to loosen up a bit and break down this ball game for you guys and then get more in a groove. So Griffin Canning, 6 innings, 2 hits, 1 walk, 1 earned run, 5 strikeouts, now is down to a whopping 2.36 ERA. If you guys don't know the Griffin Canning story, let me enlighten you. This man threw 170 plus pitches last season for the Anaheim Angels. This same Griffin Canning is right around a career 5 ERA. He was then with the Atlanta Braves not long, and then they just cut him because they're like, we don't really have room for you, and there's really no use for you. We don't know how to figure you out. Come to find out, everybody, we have plenty of potential in Griffin Canning. All it takes is a pitching lab and a pitcher willing to listen, and thankfully the Mets had a perfect pairing from Jeremy Hefner to Desi Driscoll, Eric Yeagers, and Mr. Griffin Canning here. What I loved so much about Canning today and his approach, especially on his 29th birthday, which was absolutely sick. Shout out once more to Griffin and his entire family there. Hope they had a great day. He was utilizing that forcing fastball well. Yet again, right around 40% of the arsenal, 41% to be exact. And we see topping out 95, sitting right around 94. The slider at 35%, topping out 89 to 90, sitting right around 87. The changeup at 18%, topping out 91 and sitting right around 91. And the knuckle curve at 5%, we're seeing topping out 81 and sitting right around 80. Griffin Canning, guys, he has been unbelievably good. That I'm going to go out of my way to give Griffin Canning, yes, we're giving the dog today a 7.5 out of 10. I thought he was tremendous. I thought he did a fantastic job at approaching and battling these lefty batters. And that, yes, even though PCA did turn on one, it doesn't change the fact of how impressive overall Griffin Canning looked in today's outing. And I'm really, really blessed to see him do this in person, to take part in today's outing, because Griffin Canning had himself, yet again, one of the more dominant outings that we've seen from Mets starters so far this season. He's just stayed unbelievably consistent so far in the 162. And I agree, Jonathan has been absolutely fantastic, kid. And I broke down Jonathan in a video that dropped in the AM today. So if you guys didn't check it out, please make sure you do so, because Jonathan, Ronnie Mauricio, a lot of big prospect updates for you guys to check out before I break down more for you guys to listen up on for a video that'll drop early tomorrow. Tomorrow's video, guys, also is unbelievably important. It's one of the bigger videos that we're dropping as of late on the platform, separate from post-game content, because of the topics that we have to get into is stuff that we really haven't talked about otherwise so far this season, and they're very exciting topics. So buckle up and get ready for the ride. We're going to have ourselves a really fun conversation. Jonathan, Noah, McLean, we're all excited for them. But guys, before we get excited about the pitching prospects, let's get further excited about Griffin Canning. That's why I want to hear from you guys watching live in the comments down below. Please let me know, guys, how would you grade Griffin Canning's final line today on a scale of 1 to 10? Like I said, I'm going to go out my way and give Griffin a strong 7.5 out of 10. I think he deserves that after an outing like today. Blindbeard, thank you so much for the $5 haul. I appreciate that. Blindbeard states the following: don't have Roku, can't watch LFGM. A comedy show went great. I'm happy to hear that. Wish y'all could have attended Assist Priest in church there for first hour of the game. I got you, Blindbeard. Thank you again for the donation. I'm glad your comedy show went well in the city this past weekend. You absolutely love to see it. JFM Edit says, let's go Mets in the chat. Absolutely. Caleb says 10 out of 10. 9 out of 10 says Ethan. Holmes says 8.5 out of 10. 8 out of 10 says Andres. And all my replay viewers, again, let me know in the comments down below. How would you grade Griffin Canning's outing on a scale of 1 to 10? But as we get back into breaking down more about this ball game, folks, let's get into leading to how the Mets have themselves a 6-2 victory. And thank you guys kindly for chiming in live on a replay. How you doing? My name's Wardy, and I cover the Mets after every single game throughout the course of the 162, regardless on if I was in attendance of today's game, the way that I certainly was, and attended the Friday victory too. I was grateful. The only game I didn't attend this series, the Mets lost. So clearly I've been the good luck charm as of late, cough, not trying to make a big deal out of anything, but we're 3-1 at Citi Field right now. Not undefeated, I understand, but we're on a 3-game heater right now. So again, you're welcome. And Brett Beatty has hit home runs in 2 out of the 4 games I've attended so far this year. So again, clearly, especially for Brett the Hitman Beatty. But as we get back to breaking down this ball game, folks, we would see in the bottom of the 6th inning, Juan Soto strikes out. Pete Alonso strikes out. And then Mark Vientos does what? Mark EV has himself an absolute nuke. Mark Vientos rips his 5th home run this season, and he lifts that to left, and there was no one happier with that Mark Vientos home run than my girl, because she is one of Mark Vientos' biggest fans. That is her favorite player currently on the roster. Loves Vientos from the initial start of his breakout last year, and it's been really awesome to see Vientos blossom into becoming the talent that he's been for the Mets. And a lot of people have given Vientos flack, and I understand to a degree with the inconsistent performance for sure, especially with runners in scoring position. But between Mark's 2-hit game that he had there in game 1 of the series, the home run today, while not doing anything yesterday, Vientos is batting over 300 over his past 20 games, as north of a 900 or so OPS. He has been very productive. So I understand that while, yes, there are inconsistencies that come with Mark's game, but he really has been putting the ball in play at a greater clip as of late, and naturally the defense will hopefully pick up more as the season goes on. Now that a guy that like Beatty is performing as well as he is right now, it's a great problem to have if you're the New York Mets, to figure out, okay, we're going to go with Mark in DH today, Beatty at 3rd. Okay, we're going to go with Mark at 3rd. We're going to put Beatty at 2nd, and we're going to have Acuna come off the bench, or we're going to have McNeil come off the bench for one of the two, and the other goes in center field maybe. There are just various configurations Mets can go about with their defense because of Beatty blossoming now the way that he is, and Vientos again now starting to pick up the pace a little bit and get back more into the groove the way that he's supposed to be. And Caleb, have a fantastic night, my man. Thank you again for chiming in. But as we continue to break down this ball game, everybody, the Mets have themselves at that point a 2-1 lead, crawling themselves back and getting themselves back that home run for the lead. After PCA hits a ball, Mark Vientos says, let's go ahead and watch this. Brandon Nimmo then gets on with a hit by pitch, but Starling Marte pops up, and that does it for the inning. Mets up by 1 as we head to the top of the 7th. In the top of the 7th, here comes Reed Garrett, who allows a leadoff walk there to Mr. Michael Busch. Then Carson Kelly grounds out. Then Nico Horner rips his 8th double of the season, and that ties the ball game 2-2 at the time. Now, I was pretty frustrated when I saw that happen live in attendance, especially, mainly because I thought that once the Mets were going to get that home run from Vientos, that it was going to stay where they were going to keep the lead the rest of the ball game. And I'm not exactly sure why I felt that way. I just had this kind of feeling like, okay, we got this in the bag. And the Mets still did have it in the bag in the end, but it took a little bit more of a back and forth before we ultimately got there. Horner with his 8th double of the year. Nothing else happened, so as Dansby and Turner would line out to end the inning. So Reed Garrett unfortunately gave up some hard contact, but worked around it, and that was the only earned run he gave up in today's outing. We would see Francisco Alvarez, his first at bat of the day there, coming in there for Mr. Luis Torrens. And what does Alvy do? I'm not going to lie, I yelled a little too loud about this, and that's in part why my voice is so raspy right now. We saw Alvarez go up we saw Alvarez have himself another big hit. He ripped himself a single there to Seiya Suzuki, and Alvarez's approach at the plate has just been so brilliant in my opinion, because not only has he been pulling baseballs well, but he's been spreading for all fields unbelievably well, especially going opposite field. We've been seeing Alvarez do there, going up the middle. I've really been intrigued with his plate approach as of late, and it's really encouraging to see the swing mechanical difference that he made during his time in Atlanta training this past offseason at the same facilities that JD Martinez was recommending he go to, and he's clearly thriving and taking advantage of said adjustments. Unfortunately, the fellow Venezuelan and Luis Angel Acuna grounded into a double play there, which is a rare sight to see for Luis Angel Acuna because he's so damn fast going down the first baseline. It's not often that you see a guy like him get doubled up, but it did happen there. There's a strong turn there from Horner, from Dansby to Horner to Busch, and then Tyrone Taylor was called out on strikes, and that did there for the 7th. As we then got to the 8th inning, everybody, Ryan Stanek comes in. Ryan Stanek blew the doors off of everybody and their mother. He strikes out John Birdie swinging without a problem. He strikes out Pete Armstrong swinging without a problem. And then he gets a big fly out there on Kyle Tucker, and that does it. A dominant strikeout on PCA after PCA hit a home run this ball game because he gives him a slider, first pitch right down the pipe, right? He fouls off. Second is a splitty upstairs, right around 90 miles per hour. And then he gets him a four-seam fastball perfectly placed up and away there to PCA. You could have not put a better 0-2 count pitch there than what Ryan Stanek did. And he looked absolutely fantastic in his 1-2-3 inning today. Ryan Stanek deserves a lot of kudos for what he did today on the bump for the Mets, setting up there Mr. Edwin Diaz, because in the 8th inning, the Mets would pick up the boys, and how they would pick everyone up would be starting here with Francisco Lindor doing the exact same thing he did there to kickstart the game on Friday that was in attendance, and that is leading off the inning with an absolute bomb. Francisco Lindor ripping an absolute no-doubter to right. That would be, yes, his 9th home run of the season for Lindor. That gives the Mets a 3-2 lead, and they would never look back from there. Unfortunately, Juan Soto would line out, but then the Polar Bear says it's time for the Polar Bear to kickstart something, baby. He gets on with his 15th double this season for Pete Alonso. Mark Vientos rips himself an RBI single. We love that from Mark. Talking about a day, we love that, Mr. Vientos, and that makes it 4-2 Mets. Afterwards, Jose Ascar would come in to pinch run there for Vientos, and then here comes Brandon Nimmo getting set at the plate. Brandon, who's had a hit in, I believe, every game this series. Nimmo today, it's high, it's far, and it is gone. His 8th home run of the season. Shout out to Brandon Nimmo, and he makes it 6-2 Mets, and they will go on to win 6-2. But before we got there, Francisco Alvarez ripped his 2nd hit of the day, and this one went opposite field to Kyle Tucker. That had me so hyped as well. Then we get set for the 9th inning. Brett Beatty comes in to replace Jose Ascar, batting 4th and going to 3rd base. McNeil stays in the game as DH, and here comes Edwin Diaz. Sugar starts things off easy with Seiya Suzuki and works a quick ground out on 4 pitches. He works that slider well. Then he has Michael Busch, who again had a solid series against this Mets team. Busch wasn't bad by any stretch, but he grounds out softly on a slider right down the pipe for the first pitch he sees. And Carson Kelly did what everyone else did, and that was ground out. And this time it would be a perfect ground out there to Pete Alonso. And that does it, everybody, for Edwin Diaz securing yet another secured save. When, mind you, Edwin has been stellar in save situations so far this season. He has been absolutely nails, and this Mets team goes on to win by a final score of 6-2. We got a lot to talk about in this matchup, everybody, but let me start with the following. The Mets did not have much opportunity whatsoever that we saw with runners in scoring position in tonight's matchup. They only had 3 runners in scoring position, and they did drive in 1. I'll take that 333 average. I ain't going to complain about that. They still left 5 on base, and the Mets were still clearly reliant of the home run ball. There is no denying that. I think we can all agree there. But here's the thing. The home run ball feels like it's going to be fairly consistent with this Mets team, and here's why. Brooks Raley is expected to come back sometime in June, if not early July, but hopefully June, from what things are looking like, homemade, just so you know in the chat right now. No, it's funny. Julia says, I have to admit, when Stanek first came in the game, I had to reach for my Tums. He proved me wrong. That's hilarious. And I do get what you're saying, because we have seen Stanek not look so great there in that 8th or 9th inning setting. But listen, Stanek throws absolute gas, and we know he's going to be better than some of the bad outings that he's had in the early goings of this season, especially when there's been some bad funnies around him. Like, we don't need to be reminded of that Washington Nationals series split any more than what we've already talked about to this point. But what you can be reminded about is that the Mets have had the home run ball swinging big time. We saw the Mets hit absolute tanks there Friday night. The Mets have themselves 4 home runs. Yesterday, the Mets lost 6-5, but they had 2 home runs. Today, the Mets had themselves 3 home runs. So in total, if I can do math, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The Mets had at least 9 home runs, if not more, in this series, averaging for 3 home runs per game. And guys, this is where the offensive implementation has come from. And my only critique, my only true criticism that I have with something like this is the simple fact that by relying on the home run ball for your runner and scoring position success, you are going to continue to lack the situational hitting that you need to find yourself in. And yes, we did find out that Jose Siri's up and running. That is in fact true, G-Money. Carlos Mendoza spoke to the media, I believe 24 to 48 hours ago, actually. I mentioned it on the platform in a previous live stream. And Jose Siri is way ahead of schedule, actually. So Siri is someone that might not be long before he returns, but it looks like that there's a world where the Mets might not even need Jose Siri, depending on the moves that they do or don't do. Because as some of you guys are alluding to in the chat, we have a very important topic that we're going to touch on, but that needs to be separated, that topic, because we're going to talk entirely about that tomorrow for you guys. I promise. You guys are not going to want to miss that. That's going to be a great conversation. Saturday drove me nuts. Oh, it drove me nuts too. And even as it drove us nuts, the Mets still only lost by 1 run. So even with Brett Baty being the only man to lead things off of the home run heroics, the Mets still only lost by a run. And the Mets have actually lost right around half the losses that they have so far. 26-15 record. I want to say 7, if not 8, of the Mets' losses this season are by 1 run. Definitely at least 7, but I'm not sure if it's 8 or more. Needless to say, pretty much half the amount of losses the Mets have had so far this year has been that. Jacob, thank you so much for doing that, Jacob. We will actually utilize that tomorrow on the Big X account. So that sounds great, Jacob. Thank you so much for doing that. And obviously, I'm excited to see you chef that up. But Irv Wallace, thank you so much for shopping in, Irv. Irv, if I'm not mistaken, Irv, I think I actually got your Venmo from the other day. If that was you, first and foremost, thank you so much. I appreciate that, Irv. If you would like to become a member on the platform from what you said, all you need to do to become a member is to click the link down below in the description of the live show. If you click the link, there are going to be various link options for you, including our Wardy Day event tickets for anyone that has interest, is we're going to be actually together, guys, for a group outing and an awesome lounge in the left field area August 1st against the Giants, the day after the the MLB trade deadline, and we're going to be having so much fun. You get exclusive perks taking part in the event with your guy Wardy, and that'll be our first official WardyNYM in-game event at Citi Field, barring changes. So be on the lookout August 1st, link down below. But if you go a little bit further down in the link set, because we have multiple links for all of our sponsors and other stuff, go down and you'll see become a member for WardyNYM. Click that link, you will get your membership options, and it's that easy. Thank you again, Irv, for the donation. If that was in fact you the other day, if I'm not mistaken, again, it really does mean a lot. But as we continue on from here, everybody, Ken, thank you kindly for the $5 holla. Ken says, love the channel and content. Great win, LFGM, baby. LFGM indeed, Ken. Thank you so much for the donation and, of course, for being a great member here. We're very happy to have you. Let's get into talking now, everybody, not just on Griffin Canning, but another standout in this matchup. Talk about another standout in this series, and that has to be Mr. Lindor himself and Francisco Lindor. Let's take a look at Francisco Lindor's series stats, everybody. As Francisco Lindor had himself 2 home runs, 2 RBIs, and a .462 average for, I'm sure, well over 1,000 OPS thanks to the home run heroics. Lindor just had some absolute bombs that we saw to lead off the ball game in game 1, and then, of course, there to have himself a bomb late in this ball game that we saw to win by a final score of 62. Francisco Lindor now on the season is up to 301 on the average and 877 on the OPS, and that is my leadoff man, baby. Hype me up. Absolutely hype me up. And Kevin, I absolutely do think he's better. I think the potential's through the roof with that player, without question. And that's like what I said. We're going to get into a lot of it tomorrow. Oh, I'm not talking about Jose Siri. I don't know if you're talking about who I think you're talking about, then that's what I had to say. But if you're talking about Siri, that's different. Siri fluctuates. Siri has a lower floor than Tyrone Taylor, no question. Taylor has a better floor, but Siri, I would say, has a better ceiling with his home run potential and just electricity. I think that is a fair argument to be had as well. But guys, I would love to hear from you guys in the live chat and the comments down below. How do you feel about Francisco Lindor after what was yet another big promising series there at Citi Field? And I'm not trying to say I completely called this, but guys, it feels like it's such a lock to just be like, okay, Francisco Lindor over for extra base hits for any key home game, because that's really what the start of the season has been for someone like him. He has been unbelievably good. And when I tell you that Francisco Lindor is locked in, this is a man that really hasn't had a rut for more than tops 2 weeks so far this season. Like a week and a half to 2 weeks, we've seen Lindor be underwhelming with his baseball. Otherwise, the guy has been as good as any out of the National League. He's looking like the best shortstop out of the National League. He's better than that schmuck in Philadelphia, Trey Turner, because Trey needs to figure out an OPS a little over 700 first, and secondly, needs to be able to exemplify consistently dominant defense the way that he surely doesn't. They're just, again, apples and oranges if you ask me. But Francisco Lindor, what a stud he is, cannot get over our captain. And, you know, it's funny, I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine Friday at Citi Field, and he relayed to me something that I mentioned in the past. Going back to the offseason, I said this, but I said that there could be a main reason as to why it doesn't happen. There's a lot of people believing inside the Mets space that Francisco Lindor will be officially anointed captain on the day David Wright has his number retired. Now, obviously, that sounds electric, emotional, and everything that you'd be looking for, and something that would really be special. But at the same time, the reason as to why I have such a big counter with it is because I feel like that would also take away potentially from Wright's big day. And I know that you don't want to necessarily take the spotlight away from the guy that you're specifically emphasizing the spotlight that day, but unless David Wright goes out of his way to basically be the proponent and saying, and it's with my pleasure that I introduce you now the next phase of captaincy in New York and Flushing, Queens, and that is with, yes, your shortstop in Francisco Lindor. If it was something along those lines, that'd be sick. But like I said, I think that they're going to probably be better off leaving it as David's day. I'm just relaying this again because it was an interesting conversation that I had a couple days ago, talking with great followers of mine and supporters on the platform, and also just kind of thinking to myself, I know it's possible, but I'm still going to have to see it to believe it. Because otherwise, I just say give Lindor his own day whenever they think it's going to be bad. It would be electric. No one can deny it would literally be like, why am I crying in the club right now? As a meme, if you know, you know. But I really think that Lindor, it's not a matter of if, but when he gets anointed captain, and hopefully it does happen this season. And my question to you guys now, I guess, is the following. If Lindor does officially get the captain label this season, when do you think it's going to happen? I would love to hear when you think it's going to happen. And give me 1 second, folks, just muting my mic for 2 seconds to blow my nose out. Lindor definitely has errors at a higher rate this season than what he had last year. That is true. But hopefully he can just get himself in a groove and not have any issues on that front. Missing, I look again, Irv, not an issue, Irv. Again, it should be in the description of the live show. If you have an issue with it, again, shoot me an email or message me over Venmo again, and I will gladly get back to you. And don't send more money over via Venmo. I'm just saying message me over there. You can just add a message from your initial donation, whatever is easiest for you. And that's, again, if you need the further help. I'll be happy to oblige. But getting back in this, guys, let's go from talking about Francisco Lindor, who, again, very impressive. Love the run that he had. So now let's get into a guy that, as we mentioned a little bit earlier in the show, I feel like he's just not getting enough love. And I know that he hasn't played the best baseball, so I'm not expecting everyone to be jumping for joy. But the amount of casual fans that are just loving the idea of writing off Mark Vientos so far this year is just so blasphemy to me, and I simply can't comprehend it. What makes you think that's a rational take to be all in on Mark Vientos last season? Like, let's say you're a pro Mark Vientos guy in 2024, and as soon as he got the call, limited sample size, you're like, oh, Vientos is a guy. He's got to be here, right? And you stuck with him all year long through the highs and lows, the defensive inconsistencies, the defensive errors in the postseason, and the home run heroics in postseason. You had all those things happening. But even with that happening, so far to start this season, because Vientos has not performed too hot in the 4 to 6 spot there, in runner and scoring position situations quite often, it has allowed a lot of fans, especially with the underwhelming defense at times, to be like, there isn't room for Mark Vientos. And I'm sorry, I just don't know what we're saying here. Like, why can't we thrive by just having the deepest team possible? The Mets are a better team today by having Brett Baty and Mark Vientos on the roster together than by having just one or the other. I think it's a silly notion that, this needs to be a battle between the two right now, or that, when is one going to get traded? If one gets traded, it'll obviously be at the traded line more than likely, barring changes. And secondly, both guys have been productive for this Mets team. Vientos is now, I understand, not great numbers, but a 235 average, over 700 OPS finally. A home run today, which we love to see. And he had 2 RBIs, not one. So I apologize, everybody. Per usual, I had at least one thing wrong on the graphic there. Vientos had 2 RBIs today, not one. And in the case of Mark Vientos, he's one of these guys that I feel like will continue to get written off and just kind of slept on because of the fact that he is not a star defensively. He obviously has been more of a liability there than I think anything else so far this season. And offensively, we know that he has had a decent amount of swing and miss, but he's also had some really bad luck too. If you look at Mark Vientos' swing decisions, when you look at the advanced numbers, they tell you that he's not a guy that's getting caught chasing out of the zone constantly. He's had some bad looking Ks, don't get me wrong. He's made Javi Baez look like a Hall of Fame batter this year, even though I will give credit where credit's due. Javi Baez separately is off to a great year this year, batting almost 40% above league average, and that's why I did a video on him last week on the WardyNYM platform, so please make sure to check that out, guys, in case you haven't already. But expand further on Mark Vientos. This is a guy that I feel like continues to get doubted for no reason whatsoever. I mean, can we give a little bit of a leash to a guy at 27 home runs in just over 100 innings last year? Because at absolute worst, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, and we worry about it. We worry about it then. But the notion that Vientos is not a playable player for this Mets team, or that he won't find his stride or find his groove, I just think is so not only premature but stupid. Like, you guys are the same fans that wrote off the Mets last year when we were 11 games below 500 and firmly thought that there was never going to be a chance that he would get closer. Parker, how we doing? Mets fan from Idaho. Happy to have you in here, my man. Hope all is well. Homemade says Mania updates. He's continuing to get ramped up. His rehab is not started yet, but he and Montas should hopefully be starting within the next 2 weeks, is what I would assume here. I'd imagine rehab gets started right before we ultimately get to the start of June, and then hopefully we get these guys back right in the beginning of June or so, early to mid-June. Hopefully beginning of June there in that series against the Dodgers. Even though I also hate the idea of having a Montas or Manaea make their season debut against the LA Dodgers in LA. That just sounds like batting practice, doesn't it? Let's see. G Money in the chat says, exactly. Facts. I hate when some of the Mets fans all rag on him based on the inconsistencies at third base, but he's not perfect. Every player, of course, is going to have their struggles. Absolutely. On top of it all, we can't sit here in confidence and say that the Mets just have a clear-cut, guaranteed better option at third base, because they don't. Beatty's looked great as of late. No denying that whatsoever. And I've had a lot of great things to say about Beatty, and I will continue to do so. I love the kid. I'm so happy to see him finally thriving. But I think Beatty and Vientos can find themselves thriving this lineup on a pretty much daily basis. And again, the depth of this Mets lineup is what separates it better than most. This is what can't be understated, in my opinion, when we talk about the lineup. Not just Mark Vientos, everybody. When we talk about the Mets lineup as a whole, just listen to this. Listen, this is still without Jesse Winker and without Jose Siri. I'm going to say something that might be interesting. Here's my take. I love Jesse Winker to death, too, so let me bear that in mind. Jesse Winker getting hurt was a very good thing for this team in the sense of figuring out the roster flexibility. Jesse Winker is a far more limited player in his defensive upside and utility than a guy like Brett Beatty. So by Winker going down and unfortunately out for the next number of weeks due to that oblique strain, grade 2 oblique strain, which I'm not happy about at all. I love Jesse Winker. You guys know I do. But if there's any positive that you could take out of what was a rather great negative, it's that Brett Beatty is now not only given an opportunity to succeed, but he's actually succeeding. He's actually lifting the baseball and driving for power. He's actually lifting the baseball and going for opposite field power, and not just having cheap shot home runs. They're clear as day home runs. We are seeing so many things really blossom in the Mets realm, which I'm loving so much. And exactly, G-Money, going back, he's been hitting 300 over the past number of games now, which we love. No, Lewis, not asleep. I'm not going to bed probably until like 2, 3 a.m. because I got a whole other video that I got to record for you guys to drop in the a.m. as soon as we're done with tonight's post-game show. But that's what we got to do here on the platform for you guys. So if you guys could do me a solid and at bare minimum, hit that like and subscribe on your way in. Help us get to 200 plus likes by the end of the live show. That'd be greatly appreciated to our north of 400 live viewers. And thank you guys kindly for doing exactly that. We're breaking down the latest in Mets land as the Mets take down the Chicago Cubs comfortably here in the series finale. And now, folks, listen to this. If I'm not mistaken, again, I could be wrong. The Mets are now 16-9 this season when facing teams above 500. So the notion that, the Mets are playing all these bad teams, no wonder they're performing so well, is again complete BS. The notion that the Mets can't even play up to the big bad Chicago Cubs. What was menacing about the Cubs this entire series? Can someone tell me? Can someone enlighten me? Was otherwise controlled. There was nothing about Tucker that had me thinking, we got ourselves a problem here. PCA hit a tank today, but even when he did, it was like, oh shit, okay, let's go get it back. It wasn't as much about, here comes the Chicago Cubs, as it was, all right, guys, the New York Mets clearly have this series in the bag. Just don't F it up. They effed it up in game 2. And that is not to slight the Cubs and their performance because they played a very good game. They deserve credit for that. But I think what I'm trying to say is for a Cubs team that entered this series, being far and away the biggest matchup the Mets have had so far this year on paper, specifically in the notion that many believe the Cubs to be a better team than this New York Metropolitan team, and the Mets pitching further exposed the Cubs' lack of pitching because of their injuries and inconsistencies, and the Mets offense further exposed a Cubs offense that isn't as deep. The Cubs entered this ballgame top 3 in offense in Major League Baseball. The Mets entered this ballgame top 10 in offense in Major League Baseball. Who looked like the better offensive team? Who is the team that averaged 3 home runs in every single game of this series? That's the New York effing Mets. That's who. Steven, no worries about entering late, my man. I was very late to the party today because I came back from Citi Field today. Otherwise, I was going to go live from Citi Field itself, but unfortunately, we weren't able to make it happen because of the logistics. They had things happening after we saw the game today. They had a bunch of kids running around the bases that you could sign up for, and it felt like every kid that was in attendance at the ball game was lined up outside the ballpark to take part in that, and that was a lot going on. Ryan Stanek threw 100. He was fantastic, John. We'll talk more about Ryan Stanek in the Mets bullpen here in just a minute. You play who's on your schedule. Exactly. You can't fault the Mets for performing well against the teams they're supposed to play too. I think that's hilarious. David says, Beatty's a choke artist. David, here's the thing. You might not be entirely wrong, but there's no need to say that at the entire point when it's the complete opposite. You can't say that when Beatty was the only guy that had a clutch gene in his body in game 2 of this 3-game series. So I 1,000% understand what you're saying in the notion of Brett Beatty has choked in the past and he will again, but why even go the lengths to do that? Warrior, did you get Shea ice cream? You have to. No, not today. Still a little premature for him to be doing that. But Dave, we will definitely be having him expand the palette here. He's already been expanding a lot. He had a lot of fun at the ballpark today. Just an absolute blast. And to actually show you guys, I'll show you guys a quick photo here. If you guys didn't see it on the community tab, I have a bunch of pics with him, but here's a good one of me holding him, and I have an emoji over his face. Not that I think that you guys would all be weird by seeing him, because some of you guys interacted with him at the Mets game today, but more so just because sadly people have to be schmucks out there on the internet, and this is the times that we live in. So here you go. As you guys can see, there is me and there is Shea. I hope this loads. And there it is, my first Mets game. If you guys can see, the logo that we have on the banner is exactly the same logo on my hat right now for the most part. It's that little Mr. Met. The only difference is that he's swinging a bat on my hat versus here he's just sitting all content and happy. But Shea, guys, I got to tell you too, for a first time ever in attendance of a sporting event, previously he hadn't been in a room with people more than like, I don't know, 100 maybe. Then he goes from that to like 35 to 40,000 screaming and roaring after a home run. Naturally, he was upset when the home runs were first hit, but he calmed down quickly after because we were all jovial. It was with all excitement. It was not anything to be concerned about. So he quickly picked up on the fact that everything that was happening was good and you should be happy about it. So he had an absolute blast. I was there with my entire family. I'm spending Mother's Day with not only my girl, but with my mom, my brother, and my dad too. So we had an absolute blast of a time, and haven't gotten a chance to do something like that for a big family event there at Citi Field. Don't get the opportunity to do that as frequently as I would like sometimes. So today was a really good excuse to do that, especially for Mother's Day. Hence the reason as to why, again, we were back here so late getting all set up for today's live show. I might steal that name from my first sport. You're not stealing it. Trust me. Shea is the most commonly used name for diehard Mets fans that have kids. It's either for your kids or for your pets. It's very common. So by all means, Big Rick, go do your thing. I've had multiple Mets fans interact with me on the platform the past calendar year plus and say, oh, you know, my daughter or my son Shea was just born. I'm like, I'm not surprised. You know, like that's just how it is because the name is all, I love that name prior to even the Shea Stadium connection to my mind. I actually, quick little story, the reason why I named my son Shea is not as much because of Shea Stadium, but actually a lot more to do with Shea Weber. And hilariously enough, I wasn't even a big Shea Weber fan because he was on more rival teams outside the National Predators as their captain in the NHL. He played for the Flyers and the Canadiens, two teams I despise as a New York Ranger fan. But Shea Weber was at once a dominant defensive defenseman there that had obviously offensive upside, especially on special teams. Long time for the National Predators, but he was like the first guy I saw in professional sports growing up as a diehard sports fan with the name Shea, S-H-E-A, like Shea Butter, like Shea Stadium. And from that point on, both my brother and I were enamored with the name, and I beat him to it, by having kids first because he loved the name Shea too. If he was going to have a son, thankfully, my lady was more than in love with Shea when I first mentioned that as a name option when we found out we were initially expecting. So I love the name. I always have, and that was kind of something I always thought would happen as long as it was going to happen. Shea Langeliers is a stud too. Yeah, you're right. And I really do like Shea Langeliers, and I can't thank the Atlanta Braves enough for trading him to the A's because he is not playing for Atlanta, and he is one of the better catchers out of the American League. I like Langeliers quite a bit. He always torches the Mets too, as a guy that was named after Shea Stadium, basically. So it is what it is. Let's see here. Guys, as we continue to break down everything, all of our key takeaways from this 6-2 victory and this big series victory, guys, let's get into a couple of the following topics. And let's start with the Mets rotation. I think you guys are going to appreciate this. And all of our replay viewers continue to chime in here. Usually I cut things off by this point, but I'm not doing that today because I really need to emphasize to each and every one of you just how good this Mets rotation has been so far. Like, it has been unbelievably good. And the stats here are going to back it and then some. So let me pull it up for you guys. Mets rotation. Folks, After Griffin Cannon's final line today, the Mets rotation is now the following. Kodai Senga with a 1.16 ERA. Griffin Canning with a 2.36 ERA. Clay Holmes with a 2.74 ERA. David Pearson with a 3.05 ERA. And Tyler McGill with a 3.10 ERA. Still comfortably the lowest rotation ERA in Major League Baseball. No Frankie Montas, no Sean Manaea. The amount of you people that were giving death threats to David Stearns or just saying vile shit when they initially signed Griffin Canning further exposes the fan point of view and how it's more often than not wrong when you finally have someone in the front office who knows exactly what they're going to do with each player that they acquire. There is no more BS with the Mets making moves for the sake of making moves. Every single time that they make early signings in the offseason for fringe MLB talents, you need to sit there and say to yourself, why did David Stearns make that decision? And the more that we break down the numbers, the more that we emphasize the greatness of Jeremy Hefner, Desi Driscoll, and the success the Mets have had with their analytics group and in that pitching lab the past 2.5, 3+ years. And then you add in the hitting lab, which I know has fluctuated with Eric Chavez and Jeremy Barnes. That's an understatement. But when you add all these key components together, you come to the reality that there is so much potential here with a team every single year, regardless of who is on this roster. The Mets are going to continue to churn out very good seasons each and every year, and it's going to be because of guys like David Stearns leading the way at the helm, making great things happen because they have faith in their player development and they have faith in all other aspects to their player evaluation when they're giving, signings on bargain bin pickups for others. And you need to have a healthy balance of picking up guys at good prices that are going to exceed their value after you acquire them, as well as guys that you are going to give a big payday because they are deserving of exactly that, i.e. Juan Soto, for example. When I say deserving, I'm not saying that they're deserving of every dollar. Juan Soto obviously doesn't deserve necessarily $100 million in base pay this year and $765 million total at minimum, but that's naturally what's going to happen when you have an inflated market. Let's see here. We got a big $10 holla. Thank you so much for that. Tyler Martinez, thank you so much for it. I appreciate it. Hey, Wardy, what is your take on constantly hearing the broadcast over the weekend mention how we trade PCA for Baez? I found it getting annoying. He was a prospect at the time in single A. So I'm actually really glad that you brought that up, Tyler. And shout out to my fellow Tyler in the chat, everybody. Always love to have more Tylers in the chat here. We are Canes here. And obviously I'm joking as I say that. But Tyler here with a great question that I'm going to show you guys this because I have many things to say on the Pete Crow Armstrong front. But if you guys want to know more in particular where my stance is and to kind of give you a further breakdown on PCA, let me show you guys this. You see this, guys? You see this video? Why the Mets gave up on MLB's new best center fielder? And obviously, that's a little bit of bait in the sense that it's early to suggest that he's going to be now a top center fielder, but he's having early performance to suggest that it's possible. And that's on Pete Crow Armstrong. Guys, the past week, I purposely did a two-separate videos on WardyMLB where I do MLB-wide content. We have over 1,000 subscribers there. Check it out. Just 7 videos in. We're having so much fun. We're dropping more content there this week, and some will be Mets connected, some will not be. But I start with Javi Baez because he's thriving as a center fielder now and having the best offensive numbers he's had since being a Met in 2021 and that little sample size post-trade deadline. And Pete Crow Armstrong, we broke down where Zach Scott went wrong and his player evaluation in PCA, why PCA has blossomed to what he is now, and why the Mets took the risks that they did by giving him up at the time. Because, yes, the broadcast absolutely gargled PCA's you-know-whats this entire series. No question about it. But that's typical for national broadcasts to do everything in their power to undermine a Mets team when there is also another good storyline going on across the diamond there in the case of the Chicago Cubs. So, yeah, I was frustrated by it too. I didn't enjoy it either. But if you want to know more on the PCA front, especially my thoughts from a Mets fan point of view and reaction, and it's kind of a breakdown of a storytell as to how that all transpired all those years ago now, feel free to check that video out should you guys have interest. If you don't, that's fine too, because I can understand maybe why you don't have interest in said content. But Tyler Martinez, again, thank you for the donation. I appreciate that. Now let's get back to this main slide here. Let's see. I am happy with the pitching, but let's see this over the long run. I 100% agree. We got to find consistency with this pitching, to say the least. And G Money, thank you for the kind words there on Wardy MLB. I appreciate that a lot too. Guys, there are a couple more things I would like to share with you all before we get out of here for our latest live show. Again, after the Mets won this one big time by a final score here of 6-2, securing the series victory against the Chicago Cubs. And between the 6-2 victory today and initially the 7-2 victory on Friday, the Mets outscored the Chicago Cubs in the series totaling, let's see here, let's do quick math. 7, there we go. So we got 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay, we got 18 runs in the Mets' favor, and they gave up a total of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, the Mets outscored the Chicago Cubs by at least 8 runs in the series. They had 3 homers on average every single game in said series, and this Mets team now is getting set for what's going to be their not biggest test yet, but another key series where, while offensively, the team that they're playing should be its own demise. That right there should be why the Mets win at minimum 2 out of 3. But at the same time, when you have Paul Skeens on the bump tomorrow, you don't really know what's going to happen. A massive series beginning tomorrow that I cannot wait to see happen, everybody. So please make sure to chime in for our post-game segment. We may even have a pre-game segment depending on how early I can get a pre-game in, and then potentially a watch party. So be on the lookout. We'll do watch party again, first 4 innings here live on YouTube. Then it'll be solely in the playback app, but it'll be live and playback from start to finish. And guys, we will also have a video dropping in the AM for you guys to check out tomorrow. Please be on the lookout for it because it is a big one that I'm really excited to break down with you guys further. So before we get out of here, everybody, let me leave you off with this because some of you guys have asked in the chat how we kickstart and how we're now going to end our latest New York Metropolitan post-game show is by doing it the best way we know how, and that's by letting it rip once more with the one, the only, the official WardyNYM post-game jingle. Have a fantastic rest of your Sunday night, everybody. I'll see you all tomorrow for at least 2 to 3 forms of New York Metropolitan content, that is. I apologize.
Post-game. Post-game. Calling all Met fans, come and join us now. Talking about this game and gonna break it down. It's Mets post-game.
Shout out to my guys, Greg and Jordan, once more for their amazing WardyNYM post-game jingle. Whether you love it or hate it, it's here to stay. I'll see you all the next one. Thank you guys again for your patience today. Once more, my apologies to anyone that I had you guys waiting a bit too long there for a post-game. We'll make sure that I do my best to make sure that